Hey Harmonizers, welcome to this video with Mustang Taming with Cadbury. A lot of exciting things happen in this video, and it's going to start off pretty soon when you're actually going to see Cadbury jump the hay bale, which was something totally unexpected. But this is my first time trying to catch him out in the field after being released into a bigger field with other horses again. So watch this moment here. Stewie looks at him and then Cadbury's like, oh, I better jump that. Because Cadbury felt like he was between Stewie and me, his best option was to jump the round bale. Of course, not like, stop, back up and go the other way. And I'm like, wow, Cadbury, you have some serious jumping potential that I did not know was possible for you. So I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot more you're gonna be able to do. Stewie is the Mustang on the left, who's also recently feral. I got him before Cadbury, and it's not me primarily working with him anymore. It's one of our coaches who expressed a desire to want to practice Mustang taming and had never had a chance to do that before. So she's been working with him. So what happens with Mustangs is they tend to get a little bit attached to one person and they can be nervous of other people. So I can go up to Stewie and pet him and catch him if I need to. But if I'm not focused on him or I haven't seen him in a while, then they tend to look at you like you're a stranger, you go over there. And so Stewie also didn't want Cadbury next to him. So instead of Stewie coming up to me and kind of showing Cadbury how to be friendly, he started off with like, no, I don't want to be caught by you. You're not the one working with me anymore. And you can see here, Stewie just kind of wanders off a little bit, but then that causes Cadbury to want to wander off as well. And this is a thing that can happen when, it's one of the benefits to having a Mustang by themselves when you're first taming them, because then you're the only thing that they're focusing on for companionship. And then once they're out with other horses again, sometimes they can get very attached to the other horses and want to be with them. And of course, it's winter time. We have questionable weather, and it doesn't even matter that Stewie is kind of mean to Cadbury. Like, kind of is like, don't get too much in my space, and kind of pins his ears at him, threatens to bite him or kick him, as you saw that he even jumped the round bale. Cadbury still wants to be near the other horses, but it's just a thing that can happen. It's part of the whole Mustang taming process. There's all of these little things, they're like little foundational things that are part of teaching the Mustangs to be a domestic horse. Now there is a person over there. You can see there's some people at our farm. Our farm's a little bit busy. So that's also contributing a little bit to the nerves going on with Cadbury. That he's like, so it could have been that he wanted to follow Stewie, or it could be that the other people were showing up. They are at a distance, but that can cause them to want to flight away as well, because Cadbury likes me and he's attached to me, but that doesn't mean that he's accepting of all humans yet. That's another step. So when it comes to Mustang taming, there's like all of these pieces that people don't necessarily think of. It's not just about being able to catch them and put a halter on them and brush them. It's also helping them realize that other people are friendly. It's helping them realize that they can be out with other horses and still come in and have a connection with a human, that it doesn't have to be like one or the other. So there's a lot of things that they need to learn, and it happens at their own pace. I've had some Mustangs where they pick up on certain things really quickly. Others take a little bit more time. Some of them are really good at their body being touched. Others are really good at leading. Others are really good at liberty. They can have a whole different strengths and challenges that you're working through. So here, I'm just going very slowly, approaching. I can tell like he's like, okay, there's a lot going on. It's also a little different because my husband is in the pen filming, which means that there's another person. And I did instruct my husband, I'm like, all right, you stay against the fence line, because I don't want Cadbury to feel like he's working with two people. I want you to be very neutral, not something affecting. But because we're out in the field, I'm like, okay, I really wanted to get some footage for you guys to show you his progress. And it doesn't always work in wintertime to set your phone up on a post or something. Even if I had a tripod out with me, the field is big enough that it would be hard to, especially because you can go around a shelter and stuff like that, it'd be hard to get footage of him the whole way around. So it's easier if somebody's able to come out and film. But we're going to see in a second why that backfires a little bit, because there's a lot going on. So here you can see him doing a little bit of petting, reminding Cadbury, like, I'm not going to hurt you, everything's fine. And you could kind of see when he was in the field and we were getting started with this, that he was coming over to me and interested and curious. He just wasn't sure about being caught yet. So for me, as a trainer, I want to read that behavior and say, okay, he's kind of saying like this is a lot, and I want to be careful about how much I do. But at the same time, I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to say, oh, this is hard for poor Cadbury, let's not help him realize that this can be a good experience. I want to do the opposite and say, okay, this can be a good experience. This is going to be okay. So I just focus on giving him some scratches, some cuddles, working on some affection. And I'm like, okay, we're going to keep this really simple and short for this particular session. We're going to try to just do the real basics here. So I start off with just leading him around. And I thought, we're not even going to leave the pen yet. We're going to just focus on turning and remembering that we can do all of our leading inside the field. So you can see he's following pretty nicely there. And this moment here, he gets a little bit nervous. You can see as he turns his butt, he's a little bit like, oh no. And I didn't really think too much of it at the time, but I'm like, oh yeah, okay. What's happening is he has to put his butt to my husband who's filming. So you can see as his butt goes towards where my husband is, he's like, I can't do it anymore. And he's like, I gotta run away. So I try to hold on to the rope, but let's be real here. I am super duper pregnant, running through the snow. So of course Cadbury gets away, which is not ideal. So when we're taming horses, we really want to try to limit how many times they pull away from the rope like that, because it can become a pattern of, oh, I'm feeling too stressed, or this is too hard, let's run away and get to comfort. And that's not a great thing. It can be very unsafe, because what's happening is, like, let's say we were out in the open, it could mean that he's getting caught on something, like his rope gets caught on something. It could mean that he gets hurt. It could mean that he runs out onto a road and causes an accident, or into a car or another person. There's so many things that could go wrong. So pulling away is something that we really want to try and avoid. So after I re-catch him, which wasn't hard because he had a rope still attached to him, it was just a matter of asking my husband, can you go stand at the far end? And then that way he's now in a fully enclosed, because we've got the round pen panels there set up to just block that opening, just to give it a little bit more of a wall. So that way if he gets overwhelmed, I can hold on to that rope. And it's an important thing to try to set horses up in situations where they don't feel overwhelmed, and that doesn't happen. You don't want them to pull away. But inevitably, sometimes they're going to get more easily triggered than you anticipate, and they're going to have moments where they pull away. You just don't want it to happen again and again and again. So that would be the what they call the definition of insanity, is like trying to do the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. So I want to change how I set him up. So I didn't want to just catch the rope again and leave my husband in the same spot and leave Cadbury with the option to completely run away and go around the other side of the shelter. Instead, it's like, okay, husband, you go stand over here. Let's block off the ability to run away from this little circle. Let's focus on doing a few little laps of our little circle. And you can see he's nervous, like he's doing his little poops and stuff. And then this is all great that we're practicing this inside of the paddock, because even though he ran away, he didn't get anywhere dangerous, which is important. And then it also lets me kind of know what to expect when I take him out of the pen, how I need to set him up for success, and how I need to be careful with him being around other horses and things like that. So what I'm going to do now is take him out of the pen. But before I even do that, the reason why I'm paused and stopped is I'm giving instructions to my husband about what to do, what not to do, because I don't want him to like come up too quickly behind me to follow me out the gate and then he runs the wrong way. I don't want Cadbury getting loose, but I want Cadbury to start to have the experience of we can leave the pen and come back to the pen, and it can be a good experience. So I open the gate nice and wide. I don't have to worry about the other horses leaving because they're on the other side of the paddock, and we put that round pen panel up to block them. And then I'm leading him out and giving him lots of space to turn him around, taking my time to shut the gate. And I don't bother latching it because I know my husband's got to come out. So we start walking down the side of the arena. And the reason why I'm taking the particular path that I'm doing is because it's fully enclosed. So if Cadbury were to get nervous or upset, he would run down this aisleway, which basically has a gate at the end of it. There's no real escape unless he were to jump a fence, but there's a gate at the far end. And so I'm just walking him down, trying to set him up for success. And also I know there's no other people down here right now. So I'm taking him into a spot where I feel like he is set up for success. So now what's happening is we've come back out of the aisleway. I walked him down, turned him around, come back. And now we're heading back to his paddock. And I've asked my husband to have exited the paddock, which he has. And he's backed up, so he's far enough away. And so now there isn't a stranger in the field potentially preventing Cadbury from going into the paddock. So I wanted to try to set him up for success that way. So it's important, things happen when we're training horses that aren't necessarily ideal, and we're like, oh shoot, didn't realize he was going to pull away from me just because he had his butt facing my husband who's filming, even though my husband wasn't talking or, moving weird. He was just standing there with a camera in his hand. But things happen, and then we want to try to go, okay, so this is really hard for you. How can we set this up to be safer for you and have a good experience? And you can see it worked out really well. My husband was far enough away. He walked into the paddock there, and he stayed far away. So now we're in. It's much safer being in there. And we were able to give Cadbury a little experience of we go for a little walk, stretch our legs, turn around, come back. All is well in the world, and then back to your paddock. And I didn't want to just put him back in the paddock and release him and ignore him completely. I gave him a little bit more scratches, made sure everything was okay, and then I unhooked the lead rope and went for a little walk away. And before leaving entirely, I thought, okay, with how difficult catching was before, let's see if I can reapproach him. And this time Cadbury just walks right over to me. He's pretty happy to do that. I just practiced rubbing him, holding the halter again. He still has that binder twine under his chin, purely so that way when I go to catch him, if for whatever reason he's being too cautious about me coming to his head, it gives me a little bit more freedom to go somewhere else, just for safety, that we can get him caught easier. But binder twine does break very easily, so if you were to step on it, something's going to break, and it shouldn't cause a problem. And I walk away again, and Cadbury just comes over for a little scratch. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really good. This is a much better place to leave our session than how things started with him jumping around bale to be able to get away from both Stewie and me, not choosing either of those options. And I'm just practicing our little snuggles again, trying to teach him what affection is with humans, because it is a little scary for horses. They're like, why would you want to hug me or kiss me? Those are kind of predatory type things, like you're a prey or you're a predator, trapping me in your bear hug. It's it can be something that's a little bit scary for them. So I practice those things, and then I'm like, okay, I'll open up the round pen panel. It's very handy having that because it just stops that ability to just keep running around the shelter. So the idea is to just help the environment be set up in such a way that we can be successful with the horses by helping them find the right answers more easily. And when I say right answer, I mean the answer that I consider right, the answer that I'm looking for, which of course, when we're teaching a horse to be a domestic horse, is I want to be able to catch you. Remember, the sooner that we can get Cadbury comfortable with being handled and caught, all of these pieces, then we can start to take even better care of him, get his hooves done and trimmed, things like that. So I'm really excited for him. Let me know what you guys think. Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.